All right, we're about 4:02, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So hello and welcome everyone to the University Honors Student Workshop. This presentation will review honors course requirements to prepare you all for your upcoming advising and registration session, where you will be enrolling in your fall 2026 courses. Okay, so we're going to start off with some virtual meeting instructions. So we're recording this presentation and we're going to provide it to students unable to attend today and to all of you here so you can refer back to all the information presented. So anything you say or write in the chat will become part of the recording. So to ensure that everyone can hear the presentation, please mute your mics during the presentation. If you're able and comfortable doing so, please turn on your camera so that we can see your beautiful faces. We ask that you please save your questions to the end of the presentation when they will be addressed and answered. And to ask us a question live during the question portion, please use the raise hand feature. As a reminder, questions related to breadth requirements, major requirements, and academic policies and procedures need to be addressed and directed to your academic advisors. So honors can only answer questions related to honors courses and requirements. Okay, next slide. Okay, we'd like to introduce you all to members of the University Honors team. So I'll go ahead and begin, and then I'll call on each member that's present today to introduce themselves. I'm Jane Kim. I'm the Assistant Director. I oversee counseling operations and data evaluation and assessment. I also have a caseload of students with the last name F through Lim. So if that is your last name, you are under my caseload. I've been with UCR and Honors for 15 years. Okay, next I'll call on Begonia.
Hello, I am Begonia Echeverria. I'm the Faculty Director of University Honors. I have been Director for 2 years. Before that, I was a Faculty Fellow for 2 years. And I have been at UCR since 2001.
Okay, Jovan.
Hey everyone, my name is Jovan Smith. I'm the Data and Enrollment Specialist for University Honors. My role is about keeping track of all of our students in our program, make sure that you all are on track with your honors requirements. And as many of you know, I've been the main person you've been communicating with throughout the entire honors admissions process. And so thank you all for being here and welcome.
Latoya.
Hi, my name is Latoya Ambrose. I'm the Senior University Honors Counselor. I counsel students with last names A through E. I also oversee honors leadership, so I am the supervisor to the honors ambassadors, which you all will be meeting in the fall.
And Myra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mara Jones. I'm also one of the University Honors Counselors and see students with last names S through Z. I'm very excited to meet you all when the school year begins. I love Disney. I love entertainment, music. So come and chat with me about it. I'd love to meet you all and get to know you. And I welcome you to University Honors and hope to see you in September. In addition to being an honors counselor, I'm also in charge of marketing and media for the department. So if any of you have any interest in that area, I suggest you look into the marketing and media team to possibly join in the future.
Myra. So our administrative director, Erin Bouchong, honors counselor, Maria Rosa, and our office coordinator, Christine Parada, could not be here today, but they really do look forward to meeting with all of you and engaging with you as well. And the next one is for Begonia.
The fundamental purpose of University Honors is to promote scholarship, engagement, and student success, and to allow you, as high-achieving students at UCR, to supplement, enhance, and maximize your experience at UCR, both in and outside of the classroom. My role as faculty director is to oversee programmatic aspects, including your courses, and ultimately your capstone, which can be based on research, creative activity, or experiential learning, such as an internship or study abroad experience. Based on our fundamental purpose, we have developed 3 pillars of excellence that influence the programs, resources, and opportunities we provide you. They also represent the general learning outcomes of university honors students. These entail promoting creativity and innovation, which refers to the academic components of our program, such as courses and faculty-mentored research experiences through your capstone project, which transitions you from a student to a scholar. Cultivating a culture of contribution refers to the civic engagement aspect of university honors, which engages you in opportunities to contribute to your communities, however you define those communities, whichever communities you care about, whether they are at the local level, regional level, state, national, or even international level. And finally, our third pillar of excellence is celebrating diversity and global citizenship. And this refers to the high impact educational practices that you can enjoy through coursework and experiences like study abroad, internships, and field trips, which I'm happy to talk about later, that encourage you to think globally but act locally in order to promote your overall student success. And with regard to things like field trips and some of your co-curricular activities also can be a lot of fun. The University Honors mission is to engage the diverse community of students, faculty, and staff in the creation of global citizens through high-impact experiences that emphasize original scholarship, contribution, creativity, and innovation. So I know I've already reviewed some of that, but it just sums up what our mission is, and you'll see it emblazoned on the walls when you get into our building. Okay, so we have several characteristics of our first year cohort, and this is, as you may already know, the biggest cohort that we have ever had for first year, so you're welcome. I did most of the reading of the application, so it wasn't AI, it was an actual person doing the reading. You recall there were 3 different essays, and so I read hundreds of them myself, and then we also have some faculty fellows who read some of the applications. They were all read blind so that we weren't, unduly influenced one way or the other by, what we thought about your background. We have the high school GPA requirement, which was 3.8, and in the essays in particular, they were very carefully written in collaboration with the student ambassadors so that we got a sense of that you were a good fit with University Honors, so that you're already very high achieving, but a demonstration of your scholarship and your leadership, and that you understood what University Honors was, what our program offers, what the living learning community would be like, and that you would really be a good fit and that you would thrive in this community and contribute to it as well. That you have a placement into writing 7 or higher, and I believe we have 342 students, which again is the highest we've ever had. And I'm really looking forward to working with you, meeting with you. And as you may know, I'm actually teaching 3 of the Ignition seminars myself. So some of you will actually be in my seminar in the fall.
All right, and that leads right into the important registration documents that you'll need. Earlier this week, you should have received all of these documents sent very kindly by Myra. So if you did not receive any of these 3 documents, they look just like these on the screen. Please reach out to us as soon as possible. These are going to be extremely helpful for you next week when you begin registering for your classes, as they really explain what the first year classes are. And so we'll start covering a few of those. So during your first year in University Honors, every quarter, so for your first 3 quarters, you have to take an honors course. So for your first quarter in the fall, you're going to take one of our Ignition seminar classes. These classes, when you search for the classes, they're going to be labeled one of 3 ways. They're either going to be a HMPG 016, 017, or 018 number. They fulfill one of your humanities or social science breadth requirements. And so there's many different options in there. We have 21 different options. You just have to pick one. And so those will be one of your Ignition seminars. They're going to be really small courses. I think we'll have between 15 to 18 students per section. And so something very important to know about these Ignition seminars, if the overall point of our program, submit your capstone, is on a project or topic that you're interested in researching, think of the Ignition seminars as being exactly that for the faculty. They all got to choose what topic they wanted to teach on. And so for you to sign up for their classes, you're actually getting to see something that's in their specific passion and research area. And so it might spark something for you. So definitely make sure you take advantage. Again, Myra had provided a whole list of all the different classes that are within the Ignition seminar offerings. Again, just pick one, and that'll be the class you take in the fall. And then continuing on in the winter quarter and into the spring, you have your ethnic studies breadth requirement that'll be fulfilled in the winter with honors religious studies. That's a cross-listed course, and so you can either search it on the catalog as religious studies 012H or ethnic studies 012H. It's the same class, they just listed differently. And then in the spring, this year will be a unique offering. The history department will be offering 3 different sections of honors history. And so you'll have an opportunity to see what those different sections look like as those classes are taught from different lenses and they cover different eras of history. So very unique opportunity, a very unique one specific to honors. And so something to look forward to. I would also just throw in a note, if you have received any AP credit or any transfer credit before you have enrolled at UCR, I will be emailing you in the fall quarter and letting you know that you are exempt from these specific classes. But that's only if you have credit, specific credit for those specific courses, and those students will know exactly who they are. And so if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to me. And so just so you know, every quarter, for every quarter of your first year, you'll be taking an honors course. And so in the fall, an initial seminar, in the winter, your religious studies course, and in the spring, honors world history. And then an important thing we had mentioned before, in order to be eligible for honors and to remain admitted, you must have met the writing placement and placed into writing 7 or higher. The reason for this is, one, writing is an extremely important part of our honors program and contributes to the writing of the capstone project. But 2, in order to be eligible for the second year course, you must have fulfilled the writing course. And in order to do so, if you place in the writing 7, you will be able to complete each of the writing sequences to have you be eligible for that writing course by the time your second year begins. And so that's an important caveat. If you place below that, please just let us know, reach out, email us. Your admission may be rescinded, but please reach out and we'll confirm that for you. And so let us know if you have any questions there.
Okay, so now that Javon went over what you're expected to enroll in the fall, I'm going to briefly go over what not to enroll in. So like he mentioned, you'll be required to take religious studies and ethnic studies in the winter of next year. So it is important that you do not enroll in the regular version of that class, as you will be required to take the honors version of that class in winter quarter. The same also goes for History 10, History 15, or History 20. You'll be required to take the honors version of one of those classes. So it is important that you do not enroll in any of those 3 classes as well, since you will be required to take that in the spring. And then, as Jovan also mentioned, you'll be required to take H&PG 2W next fall, which satisfies the same requirement as Writing 30. So it is important that you do not take Writing 30 throughout this year. You can take up to Writing 20, and you need to make sure that you pass that before fall quarter of your second year. But it is important that you do not take Writing 30, as it satisfies the same requirement as an honors course in your second year. So for learning communities, you're encouraged to join learning communities from your college. Some of you I'd likely already done that. It is encouraged for you to do that, as being part of a learning community does offer some benefits. However, if there is a conflict with the course requirements for your learning community and honors, then you may be required to choose from between honors or the other college. The colleges historically are flexible with helping you, so always reach out to your college academic advisor first to find out if there's a way that you can move your learning community block. And then if you can't, then at that point you will unfortunately have to choose. But you can work with your college to work around your honors course requirements as well. Okay, so for your math placement, it is important that you finalize your math placement before you enroll in all of your classes for the upcoming fall. For honors, you're required to enroll in an ignition seminar. There's no math placement requirement for that. And also, you may have to take a writing course depending on your placement. If you are placed into Writing 7, it is important that you register for that for fall quarter, since you do need to complete Writing 7, Writing 10, and Writing 20 prior to fall of your second year. And then you also can take an applicable breadth requirement for your major as well. If you do not have your math placement at the time that you register for your classes for fall, you won't be able to register for classes that require that. So in general, math and chemistry classes tend to offer that. And so if you are unable to register for the classes, it is expected that you adjust your schedule and take another breadth requirement that can also fulfill other requirements for your major. So for the petition process, Jovan mentioned that if you have AP, IB, or concurrent enrollment credit that satisfies the same requirement of religious studies and world history, we will reach out to you. However, if there are any other conflicts with your major classes with the honors course requirements, so for example, religious studies and ethnic studies have one specific time that's offered. If it is a conflict with a major course that you cannot take at another time or in another quarter, you can petition to postpone that requirement to your second year. Or there may be some cases where you have so many requirements that you reach your 20 unit maximum for that quarter. And if that does happen, you can also reach out to your honors counselor for a petition. And then like I mentioned earlier, if you do have transfer credit for any of those classes, we will reach out to you so you would know ahead of time. But if you think you have that and you're not sure and you want to verify that with the honors counselor, then you can reach out to your assigned honors counselor to get that petition going. Once you submit a petition, sorry, let me back up. You must get a petition from your honors counselor. So you can't find it anywhere online or anything like that. But once you do receive that and you submit your petition, it's not automatically approved. You must receive an email from your assigned honors counselor confirming that your petition has been approved.
So there will be 2 opportunities for students to connect with University Honors over the summer. Students will have the opportunity to meet virtually with our faculty director, Dr. Echeverria, during 2 scheduled meet and greets. Students can get to know Dr. Echeverria, ask her questions on a variety of topics, share ideas for field trips, for example, discuss initial thoughts on the capstone, anything you really like to chat about to get to know each other. These virtual meet and greets will take place on Wednesday, July 22nd and Wednesday, August 12th, and they'll take place from 1 to 2 p.m. An invitation with instructions on how to access the meet and greets will go out via email, so look out for that email coming up. So that was basically the gist of our presentation. We just wanted to make sure you knew what to enroll in when you enroll in your courses coming up here soon and what's coming up ahead. There's definitely a lot more information on our website about what you need to do year 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I highly encourage you to visit our website, explore it. If you have questions, you can always email your assigned honors counselor or honors@ucr.edu, and it will direct the questions to the appropriate honors counselor. But now, if you'd like to ask questions, please use the raise your hand feature and we will call on you. Those of you who do not feel comfortable asking your question live, feel free to type your question in the chat, which will be enabled shortly so that it may be addressed. Please limit your use of the chat feature in order to limit repetitive questions. So if possible, ask us a question live so that we don't have the same question in chat like a number of times. If we don't have time to answer your questions, please email us at honors@ucr.edu, as I mentioned before. We wish you a successful and productive advising and registration session and look forward to seeing you in September. That said, as a reminder, we cannot answer any questions related to your major requirements. Those should be directed to your academic advisor and not during this question and answer portion. Likewise, any questions related to writing or math placement should be directed to the University Writing Program and the Academic Resource Center who oversee these areas. Any questions not answered in the linked pages may be directed to the email address provided on the slide, and I will be sending you a copy of this presentation as well, where you'll have the applicable links. While University Honors offers students the opportunity to live in a living learning community, housing assignments are overseen by UCR Housing Services, not University Honors. So please direct your questions to UCR Housing Services related to the living learning communities and or applicable housing issues. As preparation for your upcoming Highlander Advising Support and Registration session with your college, you should complete the Highlander Foundations course if you haven't done so already. The course will introduce you to many important topics that will be helpful to know prior to attending your Highlander advising support and registration session. So make sure that you complete that as soon as possible. We wish you a successful and productive advising and registration session and look forward to seeing you in September. So now we will open it up to live questions and we'll get started.
Myra, before we do that, I just want to mention the
Okay,
names
sure.
of my Ignition
Of
seminars.
course.
So one of them is called Music and Language Revitalization, and that's on Monday. And I have two sections of a class called Language and Society, Media and Movies. And I have two sections of those on, I'm sorry, the first one's on Mondays and Wednesdays, and the second one is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So just check, just because there's so many, there's like 20 offerings. So if you're interested in those topics, I would encourage you to sign up for those classes.
Open up all of this here so I can see who's raising their hand. All right. Why don't we start with Vedant?
All right. So I I know you mentioned that University Honors has like the potential like to connect students to the real world. Like, can you like is there like how does that work? Like with like I know field trips and all, but like what else?
So you mean how do we engage you with the community outside of University Honors?
Like in the like in the real world, essentially.
Well, there's a number of ways. As you mentioned, one example would be the honors field trips where we do visit various places in the surrounding area. We engage with students, faculty, staff, as well as, docents for museums, the dancers. We've been able to talk to, for example, we went to an opera house last year, and the people that run the opera house, the actors of the opera house and stuff like that, talked to us exclusively and told us about their experiences and how they, you know, got into the career they were in, how they landed where they landed. So that was a really cool experience. There's courses like our civic engagement course that has had guest speakers where people from outside the community have come into University Honors and spoken to our students. One notable case is that it's Robert Vargas, Dr. Trivia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a very famous muralist who came and spoke to our students and about the artwork that he does. While you're, getting involved in your honors capstone, you're going to meet faculty on campus, you're going to meet the librarians, you're going to be doing research. So it's a number of different ways that you get involved with people in and outside of university honors, whether it's through our courses, the academics, the resources we offer, we also offer scholarships that support you going abroad. So for example, you might want to go study abroad and you can apply for a scholarship from University Honors to help pay for that. We really encourage you to get outside of just here. So those are some of the ways.
Yeah, thanks. So building on that, thanks, Myra. And just so when she mentioned Robert Vargas, so those of you who are Dodger fans, Robert Vargas is the muralist who did a mural of both Shohei and also Fernando Valenzuela. So some of your parents might know him from back in the day. But he has been he's currently working on what will be the world's tallest mural in downtown LA. We also had Ryan Holiday, who's a New York Times bestselling author on Stoicism and applying it to current times. And we also have a Lunch and Learn series, which is we inaugurated last year, where we have honors alum come back and tell you about their experience, both in honors and what they're doing now, and sort of lessons learned. And we have a variety of kind of career readiness and professional development activities where you can choose to interact or go to events for people who are in your field or who are on campus or in the community who are doing work that's important to you.
Giselle?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, do you mind going back to the classes that we have that are mandatory to enroll in so I can take a screenshot for future references, please?
You want to see the slide of the course you're supposed to enroll in the fall?
Yes, please.
Okay. Right there.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And as I mentioned, I will be sending you a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, so you'll have all this information.
Oh,
And
and
the
then
recording.
sorry, just to say, myself and Latoya are answering the questions that are being placed in the chat. So Myra, you don't need to worry about those.
Okay, great, thank you. May.
Hello, can you hear
Hi.
me?
Yes.
Oh yeah. So I was just wondering about the format of the registration on July 20th. I
Mhm.
was wondering, do we need to bring any materials to prepare, I know my cousin, he gave me this breath requirement sheet to bring to our orientation, but we didn't really use that. So I was just wondering, is it gonna be one-on-one? Do we need
No,
to
not exactly. The
Mhm.
Highlander Foundations course is going to have more information on what that's going to look like. So if you haven't gone through all the like modules, please do so. They'll provide you with information. And then the individual colleges, depending on what college you belong to, are going to contact you and let you know, like, here's the Zoom link that you need to like access your advising and registration session. But it's going to be kind of like in a group setting. So the academic advisors for your specific college will meet with you in a group and kind of like give you the lowdown, kind of like we just did of what you need to take and when, and kind of like come up with a course plan. And then if you have questions, you'll have the opportunity to ask them questions, but it's going to be in a group advising setting, not necessarily one-on-one.
Okay, thank you so
Mhm.
much.
You're welcome. Han?
Um, when it comes to filling out the capstone project, what kind of processes should we be expecting? Like maybe specific lab research or community outreach, or what kind of involvement do you think we will be having?
I'm happy to take that question. So there are three kinds of capstone projects. The most common kind is a thesis that's based on research. So, for example, somebody will be in biology and will work in a lab, and they'll write up their findings in a lab. That's one way of doing a capstone. And for you can also do a creative activity, which can be we have students who make a film. They write a composition. We have some writing musicals. We have three students working together on a mural. And then you can also do a capstone based on experiential learning, like studying abroad or volunteering or doing internship. For that last kind, you need to get my permission first because we need to make sure that before you start the experience that you have a research question that you're going to answer through your experience. It's not just a reflection of how you felt, but it's adding to the literature. But the most important thing in my view, to know about the capstone that it can be anything that's interesting to you, so long as you have a faculty mentor who can supervise you. So you don't have to do something that's just in your major. So, for example, I mentioned the musical and the mural. So we have somebody who's writing a musical. He's a biology major. We have of the three students who are making a mural, only two of them are art majors. I think the others are in psychology. So as you go through your coursework, and hopefully the condition seminars will help you begin this process, I would just keep track of what you're passionate about, what you're interested in, something that you may want to just try out that you haven't tried out before. And again, the goal is to find a faculty mentor who can supervise you, and that person may be in your department, they may be in your major, but they may be outside your major. So it really can be anything of interest to you that you want to explore, that you want to contribute knowledge to, that you want to create, that you want to investigate further.
John?
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, so I have two questions. The first is when we are able to choose a learning community, and the second is would an AP English Literature score of 4 or 5 satisfy the requirements to take the English class in second year for honors, or do I still need to take English at UCR to qualify for the honors class in second year?
What was the first part of your question again?
When are we able to register for learning communities?
Oh, so the learning communities are administered by your college. So accepting your learning community and learning community blocks, that information on how to do that will be provided by your specific college. So unfortunately, I can't give you any more information other than that. As far as satisfying our writing requirement, we just need all of you to place into writing 7 by fall in order to be on track to meet the prerequisite for the HMPG 2W course. You can definitely talk to your academic advisor into what your AP credits are going to transfer to and what level you have placed into, or reach out to the writing program, and they can provide you more details on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kara?
Hi.
Hi.
So
Oh,
I have
I was talking to Kara
Oh,
Lynn. Karen,
sorry.
I'll get back to you. Kara?
Hello.
Hi.
So I had a question about, I heard that learning communities have this thing called block scheduling, and I was wondering if honors also has something like similar or if we're required to do that as well. Like
We
if
do
you could
not.
give.
We don't have learning community blocks like the learning communities from your colleges do. And even the learning community blocks, um, they don't have you enroll you in every course you're going to enroll in for the quarter. Basically, it'll include like a math and a science or something like that, for example, if you're in CNAS. Um, so it'll enroll you in 2 to 3 courses automatically to kind of keep you with the same cohort as you go through.
Mhm.
And they'll take care of that. But you'll still need to enroll in other courses not in your learning community block to like round out your registration for the quarter. And University Honors is not included in that block. You'll just have to add our course outside of that learning community block.
Oh, I see. Does that mean that if we were to, like, would we be signing up for individual courses during the registration Zoom? So, like, at the same
Your
time that.
time ticket, your what's called a time ticket is going to open for you when you're doing that group advising with your college. And
Mhm.
at some point during that group advising, you'll be given the ability to register for courses. And based on your learning community block acceptance and based on what they told you you should be enrolling for, based on the type of major that you're in and what kind of courses you need to take, you'll add those remaining courses during that time.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Sure. Let's see, Sophie.
Hi, so I had a question about like conflicts with course registration.
Mm-hmm.
So initially the email had 2 days on it for when we could do course registration, but
Right.
I was wondering if we had a conflict for one of the days, would we have to reschedule for the second day, or are we able to just
So
use
there,
the second day?
there's a number of registration and advising dates that are available. However, as an honor student, honor students had first dibs to those first 2 advising and registration sessions because it kind of gives you priority, the opportunity to enroll before the general population and everyone else. Eventually, those first 2 dates were also open to the general population in case you guys didn't fill the seats. But the important thing is to enroll as early as possible so that you can get into the courses that you need. Honor students, as I said, were entitled to one of those first 2 dates, but we do have students that just couldn't make those 2 dates and enrolled for a later advising and registration session, and that's fine. It's just the longer you wait, the more difficult it might be to get into the courses you want. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Beth?
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I was wondering, like, what are some common problems that like some UCR honors students have, like as freshmen, and like, what's your advice on like overcoming them?
You might feel homesick, for example. Adjusting to the quarter system might be an issue. Um, let's see what else. Um, Time management, things like that. There's a number of things that you can struggle with, but we speak about them, about these things. There's resources all over campus, whether it be mental health, whether it be study skills, whether it be how to manage your time. There's a number of departments on campus and that offer resources to students so that they can help manage these things. Taking on too much can also be a problem. When you get to campus, it's exciting, you get a little bit of freedom, you start like going out and enjoying yourself. So you might take on too much. It's going to be all about you finding the proper balance. We want you to still have fun and take care of your mental health and like do things that are going to make you happy, but not so much that you're going to completely ignore your studies and vice versa. We don't want you to completely be obsessed with your studies and then your mental health starts to suffer. So it's about finding that right balance.
Yes, yes, and I would add that so I won't ask you to raise your hands because some of you have already raised your hands, but so some of you might be like me and some other people in the room on the staff. I'm first generation and I was a Pell Grant recipient. Parents didn't have very much educational opportunity, so I was really relying on people at school, my teachers and my professors to help me figure things out. I was super shy, which no one ever believes anymore, but I was very shy until I was about 22 years old. The number one suggestion I would make is visit your faculty in office hours. Visit them in office hours. Visit us in office hours. We're required to have a certain number of hours per week and we just sit there by ourselves often. So especially if you're shy or you feel like I'm not sure if this is a silly question or not, go visit us in office hours. We can be very helpful. We try to be anyway. And especially down the road, it's a good way for you to figure out if you have a connection with a faculty member. Maybe that's a person you ask to be your faculty mentor for your capstone, or maybe down the road, especially if you're in a large class and you're doing well, it can help you later on asking for a letter of recommendation because we know you. We saw you. If I have a student, for example, when I've taught 2W, it was 200 students, and maybe a bunch of people got A's. But if I don't know you, I can't really write you a very good letter of recommendation because I can't say more than your A does. But if you've come to my office hours, I can speak to your work ethic, your motivation, the questions that you ask. So that would be my number one recommendation, and you're going to be told this by many, many people, including some of our alum, but visit faculty in office hours.
Hayden?
Thank you so much.
Or can you hear me?
Yes.
So were you saying that on our registration day we get a link specifically from our college?
From what I understand, you should have gotten an email from them or have been contacted by them a week prior to your registration date, for advising and registration date. But I would take a look at the Highlander Foundations course and see if there's more information there. And if you haven't received any information, there should be a way for you to contact them that's mentioned there. So you could ask your questions if you haven't received the information on your advising and registration.
Sure, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Is it Prisha?
Yeah, it is. I was wondering where we could find the petition form for like waiving some of our classes.
You cannot find the petition form. You need to request it from your university honors counselor. So if you do feel that you have something that you are eligible to petition for, you would need to contact your designated honors counselor based on the alpha split and let us know. And then we would send you that petition form for university honors.
Sorry, just letting you guys know, for those of you who have asked questions in the chat, myself and Latoya are answering them. So we're just trying to get through all of them. So they are being answered slowly.
Karen, did you have a question?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. So on winter, you guys say you need to take ethnic studies or the religion, right?
Religious studies 12H, yeah.
If I already took ethnic studies through dual enrollment with college credit, do I still have to take it or no?
I would reach out to your honors counselor specifically. There may be some instances where it could potentially count, but to receive for sure, we'll just email your honors counselor and we'll let you know.
Okay, I have another question. So also for the writing placement, I took English 1A and 1B through college credit. Would that replace writing 10 or writing 20?
It would be 10 and 20, I believe. But you would need to speak with your academic advisor to see how it transfers specifically to your transcript. And depending on how it transfers to your UCR transcript, that's how it would affect potentially honors.
Okay, and where can I find my academic advisor's information?
They will be providing you with that information.
Oh, on the registration day? Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Is it Ifam? I'm not sure if that's your name.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. That was like an email. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I have two. Okay. So the first one is that so I think a lot of the majors have breadth requirements that are social studies, and then but we have as honor students have to take social studies classes like history throughout the year. So do the honors classes automatically fulfill the classes that we're required to take automatically fulfill those, or do sorry, go on.
Sorry, not all honors courses are going to fulfill major breadth requirements. However, most of the stuff you take during your first and second year does. So for example, your ignition seminar will satisfy a humanities or social science breadth requirement, depending on the number. So if you take an ignition seminar that starts with HMPG 16, that would satisfy a humanities requirement. If you take HMPG 17, that would satisfy a social science requirement. If you take an HMPG 18, that would satisfy humanities or social science. That one in particular could count for either or. The Religious Studies 12H, which is cross-listed with Ethnic Studies 12H, can also fulfill a breadth requirement, specifically the Ethnic Studies requirement. And then the Honors World History requirement, so you'll have the opportunity to take either History 10H, History 15H, or History 20H. And as Jovan mentioned, they focus on particular time periods. That can also fulfill a breadth requirement for your college. So all of that will count for something in your major or breadth requirements. And then, as we mentioned, HMPG 2W, which you take in fall quarter of your second year, is a writing across the curriculum course that can count for writing 30. So all of those courses can count towards something. Once you start getting into your third and fourth year courses that have more to do with the capstones, for the capstone experience, those only count for university honors, but you're taking much less units of those, so it's not as big a load.
Okay, that makes sense. My second question is like, I took an AP exam that says it like qualifies for elective credit. What does that mean?
What specifically it will count for, again, I would leave it up to your academic advisor to let you know. They are the ones who decide what counts for their college and what it's going to look like. So I will defer to them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Myra, before you pick your next person, I just want to reiterate something for students who are not reading all the chats. So there was a couple questions about the field trips. So the field trips are free to you as students. Transportation is included, and you reserve it's on a first come first served basis. And the way we let you know is that Myra sends out an email blast letting people know here's this opportunity. So just as an example, 2 years ago, we had a field trip to see Hamilton at the Pantages in LA, and we filled up 2 buses, 100 people in 20 minutes. And some people said, "Oh, I missed it." Well, they didn't read their emails, so that's how we communicate with you. So we're not going to send you a home pigeon. We're not going to send you, a homing pigeon or call you or anything. That's how we communicate with you. So you really do need to check your email. And our policy is that so people sign up and then something happens and they can't go, you need to give us 2 full working days notice that you cannot go, so that we can open up to somebody else or open up to the wait list, or you cannot sign up for any more field trips for that year. So we're just trying to make sure that no tickets go to waste. But you can make recommendations to me or to your counselors of things you'd like to see. We've gone to the Bowers Museum. We've got a Museum of Tolerance. We went to College Night at the Getty last year. We might be going to the Paramount Studios this year. Probably another show at the Pantages. A sound bath. Myra already mentioned the LA Opera. I'm trying to. We probably will be having a field trip to the City of Hope in the winter. So we try to have something every quarter. But I am open to suggestions.
Is it Hades? Hades?
Hades?
Yes, it's Hades. Sorry. So for honors, we have to place in writing 7 at least. So I was wondering if we have a minimum math placement as well. Like if we have to place in a certain level of math to maintain honors.
No. That would just be for your major requirements if your requirements require math. But for university honors, it's just the writing. Is it Soyun Yun?
Yes, it's Soyun. So my question is, I'm currently reading the fall 2026 honors ignition seminars, and I was wondering how would you, let's say I want to take history, health, and humanity, but how would I know if this is going to conflict with my other classes? Like, for example, I have to take Gen Chem or Bio, but how would I know if these classes don't clash into each other?
So you could look up each class. If you look at the PDF document I sent you that kind of has the course number, who's teaching it, what time it's being offered, all that kind of stuff. the way that it would conflict if it's being offered on the same day and time as another one of your courses. So that document has all that information on it. Or you could look at the schedule of classes and look up the CRN. That'll also tell you what day and time those courses are being offered. So if a conflict arises, you'll be able to see it that way. And also when you're registering, if you're taking a class that's going to conflict with another one, it'll give you like a warning, like there's a time conflict, you can't take this. So it would warn you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Oh, and is there like a list of classes and like times and professors that we can see for other classes?
The schedule of classes would contain all that.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
Great. Kaden, did you have another question?
Yeah, just a quick question. Where do we see where we place for English and math?
You should have been told that by your college, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Myra, I keep getting questions about how to sign up for registration. So I'm unfortunately not as familiar with that. Is that something they normally do through their college if
It's
they
through
want to?
It's through the system that you signed up for Highlander orientation for. When you signed up for Highlander orientation and asked you to sign up for a Highlander orientation session and for a separate advising and registration session. So you should have registered for two separate things, your Highlander orientation session and a session where you're going to receive advising and registration. That was the time to do it. Through that same system is where you can make any updates. So if for some reason you need to change the date of your advising and registration session, you do it through that same system.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
No problem. Okay. Kaden, did you have another question? I see that your hand's still raised. Okay. Other questions? Jane and Latoya, anything from the chat we should highlight?
There's been a few questions asking if students can take HNPG 2W early this fall. So generally that answer is no, just because you will be having to take your other major course requirements and then enrolling in the Ignition seminar, you will likely not have room to take that class. Usually also, there's no reason for you to take it that early, unless you have an exceptional reason in which in which case you can contact your honors counselor and then we can talk about that. But that generally doesn't happen.
Now that we're talking about taking courses earlier, I would like to point out that if you are going to be graduating early, let's say like an entire year, you should definitely reach out to your honors counselor, letting us know that so that we can work with you to kind of like work on a timeline that would still allow you to complete university honors in that shortened timeline. So if at all you know that you've been confirmed with your academic advisor that you're going to need to graduate early, please do reach out to your honors counselor as soon as possible so that we can kind of figure out if we can make some movements of your honors requirements, perhaps accelerate some of them so that you can graduate from university honors early as well.
Okay. I was just about to answer this question for Nor, but I think this would be a great question for both Myra and Begonia to answer. But by being in honors, do we have any priority for registering for research opportunities? Generally, yes, but I think you guys can kind of tell the group that.
Do you want to take that, Begonia?
In terms of research opportunities early?
Getting priority, like our
Yeah.
faculty database and
Yeah, so students have to start their research, the capstone project no later than spring quarter of their junior year. We do have some students who start before then, but it's not required. That's sort of that's sort of the latest start you can have. But what happens in fall quarter of your third year is you enroll in an online class, and the main goal of that class is to get you to find a faculty mentor by the end. You have to have a faculty mentor by the end of that quarter, fall quarter of your junior year, or you can't continue in honors, because our experience has shown that if people are in the middle of winter quarter, it's too hard to catch up. So one of the resources that we provide is a database where I send an email blast to the entire faculty of UCR, and I ask them to say, hey, you want to be an honors faculty mentor? Sign up here. And they let us know if they're interested in being a mentor, what kinds of projects they're willing to mentor. So are they interested in mentoring research that leads into a thesis, creative activity, experiential learning, or some combination thereof. They also indicate what their areas of expertise are, whether they're willing to mentor students outside of their areas of expertise or outside of their major. And then we also have other modules for that class on how to narrow down your topic, how to use faculty profiles and other resources to find a faculty mentor. So we've had pretty good, and then what we also strongly encourage, we have for junior year, you also have the meetings with the faculty fellows who I appoint from across the campus, who also will help you to find a faculty mentor if you still have not found one. By the middle of the quarter, you have meetings with your counselors, and then I also strongly encourage you to meet with me if you get to about week 7 or 8 and you still haven't found a faculty mentor. And just between you and me, last year, almost every student who came to me afterwards was able to find a faculty mentor, right? So it was just that one-on-one. At the end, we were able to figure that out. So all of that means that you will begin no later than spring quarter of your junior year, but you'll have a faculty mentor by the end of fall quarter, and some students start even earlier. So some students find research opportunities working in a lab or working in the archives even before then, and we can help you find those opportunities earlier if you like. I'm not sure if Myra, you want to add anything, or any of the counselors want to add anything to that?
Yes, as you mentioned in 149, we do provide you with a faculty mentor database. We reach out to faculty all over campus and ask them if they'd be interested in working with honor students, if they'd potentially like to serve as being a faculty mentor for university honor students. And if they answer in the positive, they're added to this list, which is then provided to our university honor students, where they could potentially find a faculty mentor that has expertise in your area of interest for your capstone. So that will be provided to you. We have had labs who have advertised positions in their lab through our outside opportunity emails. Many labs across campus, this is a research campus, has taken on university honor students in their labs. And they've ended up serving as faculty mentors, and students have reported on that research for their capstones. So there's a variety of ways. Faculty fellows could potentially give you referrals to faculty that might be helpful in your area of interest for your capstone. So there's a lot of support and help along the way. It comes from a variety of sources, and you'll definitely be hearing more about it through the honors group counseling sessions. We're going to provide you with tips through the courses that are in support of the capstone project. They're going to provide you tips and ways that you can find potential faculty mentors and research opportunities.
And just so you know, you're not restricted to the list of the database that I provide. You're not restricted just to those faculty mentors, right? So some people find their faculty mentors through that list, but some other students have been successful by through office hours or through the courses that they're taking, or maybe they have an ignition seminar from a couple years before and they really had a connection with that professor. And really, you're often the best resources can be word of mouth, so hearing from your peers. So those of you who are learning in the dorms, I would encourage you to talk to other students and who they like and who's good. When you go to our social events or our field trips, you can meet other honor students there who might have some ideas of a person that you just didn't think of. So there are lots of ways for you to get ideas for faculty mentors. But again, visit faculty in office hours. We remember those students. So if I have if I have 3 students who want me to be their faculty mentor and only one of them has come to office hours, guess who I'm going to pick, right? So I would encourage you to do that.
Vedant, you had a question?
What is the maximum amount of field trips that one student can attend for a quarter?
There is no limit. You just have to RSVP potentially for the field trip. But as Dr. Cheveria mentioned earlier, some of these field trips that have that you have to take a bus to, for example, we only have a limited amount of seats on that bus, so it's on a first come, first served basis on the RSVP. Other questions? Anybody else raising their hand? No? Latoya or Jane, are there any questions in the chat we should address?
I'm receiving a lot of questions about how do they know who their academic advisor is. And that information is given to you to your advising session. Each college does that differently. Some are based on major, some are based on last name. So it's difficult for me to tell you exactly who that is. However, you will find out during your advising session who that person is. And then you'll also be able to log into a portal when the school year starts to make appointments with them. So hopefully that answers the majority of the questions I'm getting about advising.
Do you have another question?
Yes, I saw this on the chat and I just wanted to ask you, like in person, it was since we're in learning groups, can we choose the professors and the times for classes we want, or is it decided for us, like automatically?
For the learning community blocks, they place you into your courses for the courses that are in that
Oh.
learning community block.
So when we're choosing our classes, it's basically going to be chosen for us for like some of the main
For
classes.
those 2 or 3 courses that are part of the learning community block, yes.
Oh, okay.
However, anything outside of the learning community block, you get to choose. And sometimes it's just who's open, what course has open seats, honestly.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Kara, you had a question?
Yeah, I had another question. I think you talked about it earlier, but I actually kind of disconnected. If we didn't receive an email for the virtual advising and registration session, who should we contact?
I would look up in your Highlander Foundations course. It should have like if you have questions, they should provide you with an email on how to contact them. I would take a look there and direct an email to that specific email that they point out so that they can let you know when that is. At this point, all of you should be registering on Monday or Tuesday. I'm not certain if they've sent out the information yet. Like I said, I believe it's supposed to be a week before your scheduled session. They could potentially be running behind, but if you want to know for sure, they should have contact information on that Highlander Foundations course. And you could email that email and they'll let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Myra, do you mind? We have some more questions about field trips. Someone wants to know when's the first one. So we have right now, tentatively, we have one of our faculty fellows who is organizing a field trip to Mount Wilson in October. And we have a couple other smaller field trips that are going to be fall quarter, but we're trying to have one major field trip every quarter. So either going to the Pantages, going to a museum, going to an observatory, going to the rehearsal of the opera once a quarter, and then there are smaller events as well. And so as soon as we have the information finalized, we'll let you know. And I know I want to just say that I'm very, in a way, envious of where you are in your journey. So for me, my honors experience when I was in college was really transformational and foundational to what I do now. And I love all the research that I do. So I do creative activity and I do a bunch of different things related to my areas of expertise. And my honors project was my first sort of taste of that. So you're in a really exciting time in your career, and I hope that you take advantage of it and really do what you can to pursue a project that you're passionate about. And there's no you can start any time to think about what your project is. Counselors are available to you. I'm available to you. But I would encourage you to just keep track of the ideas that spark your imagination and your interest, and listen for and look out for faculty who do something in that area. And again, visit them in office hours. Try to take classes that line up with that. And you don't have to wait until the end of fall quarter to get a faculty mentor. You can find one earlier than that. So just try to be open to what you're interested in, what your talents are, maybe something you've wanted to try out that you just didn't know how to do. Again, as long as you have a faculty mentor who can supervise you, even if they're outside of your major, you can do that.
Leslie?
Hello. So I haven't been able to join the Highlander Foundations course. Every time I try, it just says failed to accept invitation. What can I do about that? And is it gonna affect me in registration day?
There's a lot of important information on that course that tells you about what to expect during registration, how the registration system works. So I do feel like you need those modules. Why don't you go ahead and email me at honors@ucr.edu, and I will provide you with the contact information you need to kind of like troubleshoot and figure out how to get access.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Leslie. Other questions that want to be asked live? Latoya and Jane, are there more questions coming up in the chat?
Myra, you may know the answer to this, but generally, if students are in a learning community, their colleges will have given them that notification, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what I thought. And I think I see Leslie's hand raised.
Leslie, you have another question?
No, sorry, I forgot to lower it.
We had a couple questions about the ignition seminar. So for those of you who can come to the faculty director meet and greet, the one next week and the one in August, I'll be able to go over in more detail what the ignition seminars are about. But Myra has sent out a description in addition to just the course title. So just if you want more information, then I could provide that in those sessions.
And I would advise you to have more than one ignition seminar that you might want to take. As we mentioned, there's a small enrollment for these ignition seminars, only about 15 to 18 students. So your first choice might not be available when you're registering because it's already been filled. So have some backups in case your first choice is filled.
Okay, I'm still getting a bunch of questions about whether or not they can choose their own classes. And it's not always the simplest answer to that. So if you're in a learning community, like Myra said, if you sign up for a learning community box, your college will select your classes and the sections for you. So you will have limited choices when it comes to your major courses. If you're not in a learning community block, then you will have more options. However, they may be limited compared to a learning community because you kind of already have that work done for you, whereas you have to find other sections that are available if you're not part of a learning community. If you're not part of the learning community, you do have some options on what classes you could take and what professors. However, it's based on availability and it's also based on what your needs are. So if your advisor tells you have to take a certain class in the fall and there's only 3 sections available, then you would choose between one of those 3 sections. For your honors classes, you can take any ignition seminar you want. You just have to take one. So which professor and which times would be whatever works best for your schedule. In the winter, there are some honors classes that only have one lecture available, which is why you guys receive priority enrollment. And that you won't have as much option with because there's only one section available for that class. But for your ignition seminar, because there's so many available, you do have choices. However, you will need to make it work around your major requirements. So hopefully it answers a lot of those questions because it really just depends on what your major is and which learning community you're in and things like that. But hopefully it would make a lot more sense after you attend your advising session on what classes are available and what you need to take.
Also, there are a lot of questions about AP scores not coming in yet or various placement scores. So this is a common issue or concern that happens every year. So don't worry. When you meet with your academic advisor, they are aware that some scores will come in later, but they will work with you on your schedule for the things that you do have and then register you in those courses. And then whenever those scores come in, we can like fill it in, accordingly. So I wouldn't worry too much about that because it does take some time for those scores to come in. It's another question that gets asked a lot.
EFAM 2026.
Hi.
Hi.
So, I this was a question that was in chat, but I also wanted to like ask, is with like follow-ups. So, for the registration sessions, are those for the whole year or just the quarter like
Just
that
for
it's
the
before?
quarter. Just for the
Okay.
quarter.
Wait, and then so when are like the other like the sessions for the winter and the spring?
So you will approximately in the middle of fall quarter You'll get a registration date to register for winter quarter. The schedule of classes will open up. If you look at the UCR academic calendar, it tells you like when the schedule of classes opens up for the specific quarter that you're trying to register for. When you'll see your registration appointment, when students can start registering, et cetera. All of that is outlined in the academic calendar. Latoya or Jane, can one of you put the academic calendar link for UCR on the chat so students have that?
It looks like Jovan did already.
Fantastic. So yeah, all those dates are outlined there. But approximately in the middle of fall, you'll get all that information for winter, and then in the middle of winter, you'll get all that information for spring.
Okay. And then third question, like where would I look at like the classes that I'm registered, like my schedule for the coming quarter?
What courses you registered for, or what courses are being offered?
Oh, like yeah, the courses that I registered for, like is it on like our web somewhere or like?
So the academic advisors are going to go over all that information and that system, and it'll tell you how to access it so that you can see what courses you've registered for, so you can access the registration system and enroll for courses and all that stuff.
Okay. And then this is like a final like question. If I like wanted to make a change to the schedule like after registering for whatever reason, like would I be able to like late? Is there like a final deadline?
The only thing that might be problematic is if you're trying to change the registration for a course that's in your learning community block. If you're in a learning community, that might be a little bit difficult. So I would defer to your college on whether that's possible and how to do it. But through that system, you are able to drop and add courses, not in your learning community block, and make changes as needed when the registration period is open.
Okay, thank you.
Joshua?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, so I was looking at the lecture times offered for various classes that I'm planning to take this quarter, and I saw that there were two types. There was a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday lecture for like 60 minutes each, and then there was a Tuesday and Thursday lecture for a bit longer. I was just wondering if you had any advice on which lecture format would be more preferable for me to take,
I think it depends on the student. If you prefer only coming to a class twice a week, then the Tuesday, Thursday would probably be to your preference. If you like to spread out a little more and you don't like to be sitting in a class for over an hour, then probably the Monday, Wednesday, Friday would be better for you. It also kind of depends on what's being offered. You might not have a choice. That specific course might only be offered on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday. It depends on what course has openings and spots left for you to take. So sometimes it's not really, sometimes you can choose, but sometimes just on what's left, you just kind of have to take what's left, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you so much.
Other questions? Anybody want to raise their hand with any additional questions? Jane and Latoya, are there more questions coming into the chat that we can make live right now?
I mean, there are a lot of questions about the Ignition seminar and which one to choose. And so it does not have to be aligned with your major. And in actuality, we encourage you to not choose one that's aligned with your major because this is a unique opportunity to take a class that's interdisciplinary because all of your classes will most likely be in your major. So we really want to ignite the mind. That's why they're called Ignition seminars. So you guys can get a taste of something that's a little different. But really do be, read the descriptions that was sent to you via email, and whichever one interests you the most, that's the one that you should choose. And then also see which one will account for your breadth requirement with your academic advisor, because that might also play into which one you want to choose. If you're missing a social sciences or humanities breadth requirement. So depending on that, you might want to look at that. But again, that's an academic advisor question. But outside of that, I would just look at what really interests me, right? Because this is an opportunity for you guys to enroll in a very small class. And most of your first year classes are not going to be this small, and you get to engage with faculty and have really interesting discussions. So just really go with what interests you. That's what I would recommend.
Yes, and building on that, especially since if this is a really an opportunity for you to, as many of you said in your essays, to go outside your comfort zone, and it'll be a really small class. So it's an opportunity to explore a topic that is maybe outside your area of expertise, but in a less intimidating setting because it's you, 14 other students, and of the professor. So the professor is the one who does the grading, there are no TAs. So it's actually a really sort of a safer space to explore a topic that's really interesting to you, even if it's, not in your major. I mean, you can take something that's closer to your major, but you don't have to. Again, I would give yourself permission to explore your first quarter in college, try something new. Maybe there's a topic you've always been interested in. So just go with your gut and your heart in choosing your ignition seminars.
Other questions from the audience for the live setting?
I know I'm getting some questions about transferring units from like either concurrent enrollment or their AP scores aren't available yet. Those questions you will need to ask your academic advisor about because we cannot control any of that, the transfer units, which also brings me to my next point because I know we talked about earlier. If you have a lot of units, you may graduate early and have received a couple of questions about what if I'm in sophomore standing and things like that. You should reach out to us. However, having a lot of units does not always equate to graduating early. So it is recommended that you confirm that with your academic advisor before you ask us to change your schedule. So I want to make sure because we will need to verify that with your academic advisor before we can adjust your schedule. So it will save you a lot of hassle for you to double check with your academic advisor before you reach out to us because we will need that verification first. The other thing too to consider, because you guys are all freshmen, your major may change. You may change your mind as to what you want to do. I see this happen all the time. Students either change their major or they'll add a second major. So usually I don't adjust students' course requirements in their first 2 quarters for this reason, because students change their mind all of the time. So you may want to graduate early, and that's great. However, your first year requirements are going to remain the exact same even if you graduate early. So I'm just putting that out there because I know some students think like, oh, I need to adjust my schedule right away. Your first year classes are going to be the same even if you graduate early. So really just focus on that for now. And then you can verify that with your academic advisor and then make an appointment with us later in your first year to adjust your requirements for your second year.
We don't have any hands raised, so if there's any other chat questions we'd like to address live.
I think we got them all.
Sweet.
I think so. I'm so sorry if I missed anyone. There were a lot of questions, so I did my best, but you can always reach out to honors@ucr.edu if you do have other questions. And I know a couple people asked this in the chat, but just reiterating that this recording will be available to all of you, so you can always look back at it as a refresher later.
I will be uploading this to our YouTube channel and adding closed captions and all the like, and sending you a copy of the PowerPoint. But it might take me like a day and a half to like get it all edited and sent out. So please be patient, but I will be sending out to you definitely before the first advising and registration session coming up here on the 20th. If there are no other questions for the live or in the chat, we can go ahead and end it here. Last opportunity.
Oh,
yes.
I was just going to answer this out loud because someone just sent me a direct message about what exactly a learning community is. And so a learning community is a block of courses that you will be taking together with a group of students in your major. The colleges all do them a little bit differently, but essentially your college decides based on your math or English placement which learning community block you're in. and you'll essentially be taking the same 2 or 3 courses with the same group of students together. So the learning communities are not necessarily for honors specifically. However, we will do our best to work around that so you could take your honors classes in addition to being in an LC. But because they are offered by your college, you will need to ask your academic advisor about joining one, and they will assign you to a learning community block, and then you'll have your classes based on that.
And actually, all of this is explained in the Highlander Foundations course. So if you haven't completed it, please do so. All of that information and explanations are there.
There is a question about who does a student contact if they made a mistake on their SLR, which is their statement of legal residency. So I believe you need to contact the registrar for that. But counselors, do you have any other suggestions for that?
Maybe
I would
the
say the
admissions
registrar,
office. Maybe the admissions office, not sure. You could try those two. Other questions? All right, looks like we've exhausted. Oh, there goes one. Appreciate
And Vedant too.
I already asked this question, but I was looking on our web and I couldn't find like where academic advisor was. Where can we look to see who our academic advisor is?
They'll likely reveal that information to you during the session that most of you are going to have on the 20th and 21st or the 21st. They'll explain all that information and let you know how to access them. I think they don't want to prematurely offer that information so they're not bombarded by students.
Okay.
But yeah, they'll be providing that to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Vedant?
So initial seminar, is it going to be like discussion? Like how's it going to run? Like discussion based?
They vary by faculty member, but they do tend to be focused on discussion because they're very small, so they don't tend to be lecture heavy. I mean, the point of that is to get the students to engage in a specific topic, an interdisciplinary topic pretty deeply, you know, that you would be able to do in a lecture class. But the faculty have discretion in terms of assignments and exactly how to run the class. But sometimes we will also have faculty members will have students do group presentations or help lead discussion, write reflections. We do require all Ignition seminars to have a career readiness or professional development component, and that again varies by faculty member. So there will be a lot of variety, but because it's small, there really is this intention to have a lot of opportunity for students to discuss material in depth. So it's really important to prepare and do the reading ahead of time. That's true for all classes, but in a class this small, it's really hard to get away with, you know, not having done the reading. and the faculty member will have a chance to, I mean, the faculty member will have a chance to get to know you better if you engage with the material that way. So discussion based and pretty writing intensive, because those two components are really important to the honors program as a whole.
Dr. Echeverria, would you like to share about our first year scholarship nomination because of that course?
Well, I guess so. I was going to keep it as a surprise, but the faculty members do have an opportunity to nominate students who are exceptional in their classes for a special scholarship. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, so that's a new scholarship that we started last year.
Did you have another question, Vedant? Or did you just forget to lower your hand?
It looks like that might be everyone, Myra. What do you
Are
think?
there any new questions to the chat, Jane and Latoya? Nope. All right.
No, I'm answering the last one right now.
Looks like we have another here. EFAM 2026.
Or maybe they've forgotten and they haven't lowered their hand. Is
EFAM, did you have a question?
2026? Do you have a question, or is it just from an earlier time? I think that they don't know.
Oh, hi. Sorry. My mic just like died for a hot second. So the for RIT 07, that's like the baseline for honor students is what I've like heard like kind of or just like for yeah.
So the writing
Um,
7 is the requirement that we have in order for you to stay on track and be eligible to meet the prerequisite for our HCPG 2W course that you have to take in fall of your second year. If you don't place into writing 7 or higher, it's not possible for you to like take the necessary sequence to meet the prerequisites for that course. So that's why we say you need to place
oh,
minimum
okay.
writing 7
Oh, okay. Like so writing 7 like by the time you get to the like by
by the
first
time fall. By fall.
by fall of first year. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait. And then just to clarify, like if you pass like an AP writing exam, do you like opt out of that, sir?
I would leave that up to your academic advisor in your college because everything kind of like goes in differently to your transcripts. They decide what counts and what it will count for. So they will let you know what it articulates to on your transcript.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thank you for answering.
Uh-huh. Joshua?
Hi, my ears perked up when um the scholarship for exceptionalism was mentioned. Um, Specifically, what classes would these scholarship be applied to? Is it for honor classes? And also, is there a website that I can find more information on this about?
Yes, there is a website, honors.ucr.edu. Under the About section benefits, you'll find a listing of all of our available scholarships. Specifically, the scholarship we mentioned earlier is connected to the Ignition seminars.
Yeah, Ignition seminar. So faculty members will have an opportunity to nominate one person, one student that was exceptional. They don't all do it, but they can. So that's a new scholarship.
So if you make a good impression, you might be nominated.
Yeah.
And
So again, it's small. There's, it's usually pretty reading intensive, discussion heavy, small enough for even people who are shy like me to speak up or otherwise show that they've engaged with the material. And so we do give faculty members an opportunity to recognize those who really stood out in that environment.
I mean, I really want to make a push for honor students to apply to our scholarships. Out of all of the scholarships we offer, there's only one that's automatic if you meet certain criteria, and that's the AIR scholarship. But the remaining scholarships you actually do have to apply for. That being said, these are honors exclusive scholarships. You're not competing with the nation or with the university or anything like that. You're only applying with other honors students. We want to make sure that we, award all these funds. So we need you not to be afraid to apply.
Yes, and they're really easy applications, very short essays. I read those, so again, it's not AI. I do that. So I like to be as generous as possible. So so long as you just carefully read the criteria, make sure that you read the criteria, then Jovan does check them. But you're going to miss 100% of the swings you don't take. So I would encourage you to apply for they're on the website already. And those are in addition to, you might have scholarships that are campus-wide that you can also apply for. But these are, the ones on our webpage are only for you. So you don't have to choose the campus or us. You can do our scholarships in addition to what you might get from the campus.
So as Dr. Echeverria mentioned earlier, it's very important that you read emails coming from University Honors. That is our main source of communication with you. It's where you're going to get all the information relevant to University Honors, deadlines, and everything, outside opportunities within honors. So if you're not reading our emails, you're not going to get that information. So please make sure that you read your emails, that you read them thoroughly for that information. In addition to the scholarships being on our website, I also send what's called a weekly counseling email out. That's going to remind you of courses you need to be enrolled in, upcoming deadlines, things like that. But I also highlight the honor scholarships in that email, and I'll let you know, like, hey, the application opened up, or the application is about to close, things like that. So definitely keep an eye out for those as well. And in addition to highlighting our scholarships, I also highlight outside scholarships, ways that you can find scholarships and things like that. So we provide a lot of information and resources to opportunities in and outside of honors.
So what I would do if I were you is I would go on the website before classes begin and you have all this free time, is I would go on our website and look under our scholarships and just write however you keep track of your calendar or your deadlines, and note now when they're due and maybe a week before a reminder to apply. We're pretty strict on you have to meet the deadline, right? Because what happens is everyone applies, Jovan processes them, and I read them all at once. So it's really important to meet those deadlines. But again, there's likely to be at least one scholarship for you. So they're there for you. So please take advantage of that opportunity.
The financial aid website also has a really good page on scholarships and where to find them. So that'll be a really good page to visit as well. Vedant, you had another question?
Yes, because I saw on the honors page that the benefit of honors is leadership opportunities. Can you give me an example of like what those look like?
Well, that's just one of the many benefits of being in honors, but yes, there's leadership opportunities within university honors. For example, I mentioned the marketing and media team earlier today. Students who are interested in, working with social media, editing, making short content videos, things like that, taking photos, designing logos and flyers and stuff like that can apply to the marketing and media team and join the marketing and media team in one of those positions. We do offer scholarship in support of that as well. There's also the honors ambassadors. Latoya, do you want to give a little shout out to the ambassador program?
Yeah, sorry, I'm typing at the same time. But yeah, I oversee the University Honors Ambassadors, and they have three main responsibilities. One, they act as peer mentors to the first year students. So you all will be required to meet with one honors ambassador in the fall, and I will send you guys more information about that as we get closer to fall quarter. And then the other responsibility is to host workshops for students based on need. And so one of the workshops they do is on how to start your capstone project. And that one tends to interest a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And then they also hold events each quarter. So they take care of most of our social events. So every year we do usually have some sort of Halloween-based event in the fall, something related to Valentine's Day. Myra's holding up the plushie. So our students got to stuff a plush. And then they also learned about healthy relationships during that as well. And so they tend to oversee some of those more like fun social activities, and those activities are usually on campus. And then their last responsibility is outreach. And so some of you may have already met with one if you attended outreach events where they do tabling and talk to prospective students about the benefits of honors and answer any questions from the student's perspective. And then also you can apply to that at the end of your freshman year. So if you are interested in becoming an honors ambassador, the applications usually open up in early spring, and you will need to apply and interview and things like that.
So we only have a couple minutes left in the session. This is the opportunity to ask a question before the session ends at 5:30.
Myra, I did receive a question. It was sent to me directly, but if a student hasn't taken the math placement exam yet, will they still be able to do that at some point in the near future?
They'll basically get placed in any course that does not require math when they do attend their advising and registration session. If I move over to I believe I have the information on who to contact here. So if you click, when I send you this, the PDF of this presentation, you'll be able to click on the Academic Resource Center math placement link, and it'll provide all the information on math placement, whether there's additional tests available, who you could contact for more information on how to receive the appropriate math placement, all that kind of stuff. This would be the one to reach out to. And again, I will be sending you a PDF of this presentation that will have that link.
Okay.
And then Myra, you may know the answer to this question, but it's Casper is asking, I'm not sure if it was already asked before, but will we be submitting our schedule during the advising session, or will we just plan our schedule and submit it closer to the start of fall quarter?
No, your registration will open during that time that you're meeting with your academic advisors from your college. and you will register for courses. Depending on whether your math placement, AP scores, and all that kind of stuff is in, you may not be able to register for all of your courses if you haven't received the proper testing yet, but you'll be able to enroll in at least a few courses, and then anything that you're not able to enroll in yet because you haven't received the proper testing scores, you'll be able to add later. Other questions? We'll go ahead and wrap it up. Anything left on the chat, ladies?
Not to the everyone. I don't know if
Membership
Latoya's got
thank
personal
yous.
messages, but on the everyone page, no.
Yeah, I think I'm responding to the last direct message right now. Again, I really apologize if I missed anyone. You can always email us directly, though, if I did miss anyone, because we got a lot of messages.
Yeah, I did go through those, and so if there were some missed, I did try to also answer those as well. So
Yeah.
hopefully everybody got responded to.
But also moving forward, if you have any questions, as I mentioned earlier, just email honors@ucr.edu and it'll get directed to the appropriate person to answer that question for you.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like time is up, so we'll go ahead and end the session here. It was a pleasure meeting all of you, and we look forward to seeing you in person once the academic year starts. Enjoying some of those field trips. I attend a lot of the field trips. I really enjoy them, so I look forward to engaging with you, getting to know you, and networking that way.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.
Well, bye.